What is up, party people? Party people of the SFL, what's going on tonight? What's going on this Thursday night? I'll tell you one thing that's going on. Episode 29 of Access Live. Obviously, that's why you're all here. Danger Dave Access. Attaboy, Ben. You would have put that in the chat. Attaboy. Welcome to the show, everybody. Thank you for tuning in tonight. I'm your host, Dave Access, and I appreciate everybody tuning in. Hey, Week 11 is upon us. It's here. We've got great games this weekend. We've got a great panelist tonight doing great previews for Week 11. Basically, it's going to be another great show. It's kind of what I'm saying. So, let's jump right into the schedule real quick. Before I go into the chat and before I introduce the panel, let's take a look at what's on the docket for Week 11. Start off Saturday, first game of the weekend. Queen City at Mexico City. Mexico City coming off, or holding strong at 7. Queen City coming off the upset over Lone Star. Soto, yo, what's up, bro? Florida at Charleston, Florida, one of the hottest teams in the league right now. They've won 6 of their last 7. Tulsa at Lone Star. Lone Star needs to rebound. Chicago, Atlanta. Atlanta holding strong at 11. This is a rematch of last year's playoffs. Carolina at Vancouver. Vancouver, one of 5 teams that are 5-5 right now, and they had the biggest jump in the playoff picture from 14 all the way up to 8. Sioux Falls, which we know just had a great victory, playing at playing at Arizona. Arizona, they've lost 5 of their last 6, but they're playing at home, and Sioux Falls coming off a big victory, kind of like Louisiana did last week. Maybe this is a trap game and Sioux Falls falls to Arizona. Who knows? Jacksonville, 2 weeks ago, 6-2. Now they're 6-4, barely clinging on to that number 5 spot over Florida and Mexico City. They got to travel to Fort Worth, who just is still on a high, coming off upsetting who was the number 1 team in Louisiana. Baltimore with that tough loss at London. Portland just winning their second game at Louisiana. This game, I have a feeling, is going to be bad for Portland just because Louisiana coming off that tough loss and being able to play at home. The game that I think has the most playoff implications, personally, St. Louis at Houston, the first game on Monday night. St. Louis 5-5, Houston 5-5, 3 spots separate them. If St. Louis can pull the upset, I mean, who knows what's going to happen there. And then, of course, to cap it all off, the crowd play game of the week for Week 11, Vice Wars 2 this season, Denver at Las Vegas, Denver winning the first one, but this is the game at Las Vegas, and we all know and we've all talked about Las Vegas's home field advantage. So I kind of think that Vegas has a really good chance to upset Denver. And I know, Jeremy, you're in the chat. Sorry, bro, but, that's my opinion. That's how I feel. So, all right, speaking of the chat, let's see who's in here. Who's ready to party tonight? Let's see. Bo Martin Jr.'s in the house. Of course, Jeremy, like I just mentioned. Hugo, what's up? Wiggy, 9800. Good to see you, Charles. Gunny, of course. Doug Britton, glad to have you. Bob Funk, always putting the is that Spanky? Who is that? From the Little Rascals in the Access Live server before every show. That's great. You and Art with your stuff in there. It's bomb. Let's see. Ray Ray's here. Robert Garrett Jr. Oh, Pink Lisa. My lovely wife is in the house. Rosca, good to see you, bro. Glad you're here. Benji. Frank, I hope you're here since you're going to be on the show and all. Soto, like I mentioned, he's here. Gunny, of course. Gosh, there's a whole bunch of people here. XF Sphinx, who is that? Is that somebody from Florida, I think, isn't it? I always forget. I don't think I've seen that name in a while. Oh my gosh, my old boss is here. Look at that. Mark Chisholm in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Haven't seen him in a while. Saw AJ sneaking in. Eddie Gage right here at the last second. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Good to see everyone. Let me get down to introducing tonight's panel. First guy we have tonight, what I called the old steady hipster of the show. He missed a day or two, but he's back now. Frank the Franchise Wade is with us. Frank, what's going on, bro?
Hey, glad to be back, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you back. Another show staple, and what I've called now the second sexiest voice in the SFL since he gave up his title to AJ. Coach Craven is with us again. Coach, what's up?
Dave, I think we need to stop meeting like this. People are going to talk.
Dude, people are already talking anyway. New to the panel tonight, somebody who's been on the show. He won the Diva of the Week award in week 3. He's Louisiana's place kicker and son of my favorite SFL quarterback, Matt Fennick, making his panelist debut tonight. Matt, how's it going?
It's going good. How you guys doing tonight?
We're doing great, bro. Thanks for being here. And then tonight's special guest. Everybody knows him. He's an owner, he's a head coach, and he's a cornerback for the Mexico City Aztecs, as well as color commentator for the SFL broadcast team. I am speaking of the one and only Ramos Lynn. Ramos, what's going on, bro?
Happy to be here again, Dave. Like last time, I had a lot of fun with the other OG owners, and I'm very happy to be on your show again. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. We're happy to have you. Pleasure's all ours. Really appreciate it. All right, let's dive into this, Mamma Jamma, right now. Let's get this party started. Game 1 on Saturday, like I mentioned, is Queen City at Mexico City. And here's the thing. I looked up today. We have 7 teams at 4-6. We have 5 teams at 5-5. So you've got 12 teams, more than half the league, that are all within a game of each other, and a lot of them are playing each other this week. So the playoff picture is about to get even murkier than it already was. So Queen City, 4-6, coming off the win at Lone Star, Frank. They have to go to Mexico City, though. Mexico City standing strong at 7. How do you see this game playing out?
I told you the other night that Cam's going to, his calculator's going to be smoking by week 12.
Yeah, it is.
But Queen City comes into Mexico City, the number 7th seed right now, after pulling that upset at home last week. Bringing in the 5th-rated quarterback and A.J. Caswell. He's thrown for just over 3,000 yards, but he's also tied for 4th with 24 interceptions. Caswell has thrown 22 touchdowns. Jet Zero only has 1 TD for the season and is one of those fullbacks trying to make that transition to running back. He ranks 18th in yards with a 607. James Matthews Jr. Is about 330 yards behind his counterpart this week, but he is still ranked 2nd overall in tight ends. Caswell's favorite target is Mr. Broken Nose himself, Chris Curtis. He is ranked 4th with 807 yards. Deezer Powell is ranked 11th with 795 yards. With those targets, it's no wonder that Queen City has the 6th rated passing offense with 303 yards per game. Now, they average 302 on the road. Jeff Duffy, the Duff man, has 13 and a half sacks and anchors the Corsairs defense. Albert began averaging 9.5 tackles a game. Kappa Jones leads the team with 5 interceptions. I don't think Jet Zero will be having much success this weekend. Mexico City ranks 4th against the run, 73 yards at home. Matt Wilson is quietly having a decent year. He is over 3,000 yards. 3,174 yards to be exact, ranking him 3rd overall. 22 touchdowns and 21 interceptions. But hey, 14 quarterbacks have thrown for 20 more interceptions this season, and 4 or 5 will probably join them when that list goes on in the next 2 weeks. Phoenix Jones, another fullback, transitioning to running back, having a little bit more success. He's ranked 19th overall, 580 yards. Queen City's run defense is ranked 22nd overall, allowing over 138 yards a game. So this could be a breakout game for Jones and teammate Laurel Harrell. K.R. Barrett, Richard Montague has combined for 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns, and that's slightly better than tight end Mike Daggs. The most consistent tight end, Daggs, has over 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns. I'm still waiting to see when we get to put that tight end calendar out for 2021. QCC is only scoring an average of 15 points on the road and giving up 28. Mexico City is scoring 28 at home and only giving up 23. Mexico City will have their hands full with Caswell. The defensive line is going to have to get to him. My guess that the passing attack will not be enough for Queen City. Diva will not have room to run. Mexico City takes it 2 in a row with a 28-20 victory.
Wow. Wow. You nailed it right all the way down to the points. Here's the thing. Queen City doesn't average a lot of points. Oh, actually, let me remind everybody real quick. Just another friendly reminder. As you're looking at the graphic, the away team's stats are when they're on the road, and the home team stats when they're playing at home. These are not overall stats. That's how we break them down for this show. Queen City only averaging 15 points on the road, but I mean, they only scored 13 against us and they won. So their defense really keeps them in ball games. And being one of those teams, those 12 teams that's within a game of each other, one of these teams is going to take a pretty big hit, I think, in the playoff picture after Week 11. Jack's data has Mexico City favored by 6.5, with the over-under at 47.5, and Mexico City is the overwhelmingly favorite, 122 to only 29 so far when I looked at it last in the Who You Got. So a lot of people pulling for Ramos's Aztecs to kick Week 11 off. Moving on to Game 2. Again, Charleston, another 4-6 team, but they're playing at home against one of the hottest teams in the league right now, the sixth-seeded Florida, who I said, won 6 of their last 7, Coach. So I don't know how to call this one. I think Florida winning 6 of their last 7, if they're due for a loss, I think this would be the one. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with that, just because of the matchup of styles and whatnot. Obviously, Florida is pass-heavy, overall passing about 313 yards a game, rushing for 50 or 71 yards a game. And Charleston's got the best defense in the league against the pass. So that feels like a matchup problem. The thing for me, though, when I look at this and you can see the stats on the screen, points for and against, they're very close. They're really close. Points for and against, both these teams are at 0 on those. Third down conversion rate, about the same, all of that. Turnovers, touchdowns, everything's really close, right? The thing that jumped out to me that I didn't realize until I started looking at stats, Florida is tied for first in defensive points allowed.
Wow.
They've only, I did not realize this at all.
Neither. And
Charleston is not a big offensive powerhouse. They're okay, but not. They don't rack up a lot of points. What Charleston has done all along, what they've done for 2 seasons now, play good defense, grind it down, win the close games. Well, they got to score some points against this offense or against this defense, and I don't know if they can. The question is, I don't know if they can. I think if they can get a little bit better than average production out of their running game and convert a few more third downs than they typically do and keep the ball away from Florida, then I think they win the game. But that may be a tall order. And I don't know. I'm done betting against Florida. I think I'm gonna call them. I'm gonna call it for Florida. It's gonna be a close game. I'm gonna say about a 3-point win. It's gonna be a close one, but
it'll be close. Yeah, I think everybody expects it to be a close game. I can see this being one of potentially 5 or 6 upsets this weekend, though. Jack's data. Go ahead, Coach.
I could see it. I could see it. Absolutely. I mean, it would go down as an upset if Charleston won, and it'd be one of those. You're like, well, we've been saying Charleston's better than their record all season.
Right.
But if you're gonna hold my feet to the fire and make me put money on it, I'd say Florida.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that necessarily. Florida at Charleston. Jack's data has Charleston as a 1-point favorite, so it's basically a pick 'em. Over under a 47.5. Who you got? Almost double the amount of votes for Florida, 99 to 55 in favor of Florida. Moving on to the third game, Tulsa at Lone Star. Tulsa, having a tough season. We've talked a lot about them. And Lone Star coming off a really tough loss to Queen City, Matt, where we dropped 5 places in the playoffs. Or I'm sorry, or 4. I'm sorry, we were 6 and now we're 10. We need this win, Matt. What do you think? You gonna hook your dad up and root for him or what?
Honestly, I think it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think. Like you said, Tulsa's been having a really tough season. They have shown a little bit of life, but not as much as I thought coming into the season. And then you got Lone Star, who I thought I would see more come in. I thought you guys were going to make a bigger run, and you guys have shown a lot of life coming into this week. To be honest, I think it's going to be, like I said, a lot closer than everyone thought. Maybe a touchdown or 3-point game. But I think it's gonna shock everybody. I think it's gonna be a really big defensive game. I don't think there's gonna be a lot of rushing yards. I don't think there's gonna be a lot of passing yards. I see a lot of turnovers, and I like I said, I think it's gonna be a defense heavy game come this weekend.
Well, Lone Star definitely has a great defense. We know that, and we only average 1 turnover a game at home, where Tulsa averages 3 on the road. So
Exactly.
I could definitely see us winning the turnover battle and the defensive battle. The trick is, how is Nickens going to play? How is Gabriel Manning going to play? It seems like Tulsa's, if they're not passing the ball, I mean, they're averaging 230 passing yards on the road, but only 74 yards in rushing a game. So they're definitely a pass-heavy team. I have faith in coach and everybody that we're going to be ready and prepared for this game to get back on track and move into the 6-5 column, hopefully. Jack's data agrees with me. Has Lone Star favored by 3.5. The over/under 45.5. And I can't believe this. I think this is the first time it's happened all season in the Who You Got. SFL Nation actually taking Lone Star in a landslide, 122-30. Usually we're the closest ones, within a few votes one way or the other. Let's see what this Mighty Lone Star is going to win this game behind Ace's Arm and the Three Musketeers, Adam, Liam, and Dave. I hope you're right. I really hope you're right, Mighty. So moving into the nightcap game on Saturday, Chicago at Atlanta. Atlanta holding at 11, like I mentioned. Chicago been having a rough month, to put it nicely. And this is also a rematch of last year's playoffs, but they're both completely different teams, Ramos. Take me through this game.
Yeah, I like Atlanta in this game because, for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're at home. I think that Atlanta at the Hive is a very, very tough place to play. So I think Atlanta for sure has that, that advantage. I think that if Chicago wants to win this game, they have to dominate on the takeaways side. I think they have to intercept Brian Dynasty more than 2-3 times and give that offense of Chicago opportunities to score. We know that Atlanta is going to score. We know that they put a lot of points, especially at home. So if they can give the offense more to E.T. King and those boys, I think it's going to be a game where, you're going to need more than 35 points to win it if you are the Wildcats. So Dynasty has 22 interceptions this season, so that's for sure something that could happen if you're Chicago. But I do think that the Atlanta Swarm are the more prepared and more balanced overall team, especially when they start giving the ball to BDG Hollywood and those swing passes and whatnot. He has 102 catches this season, which is pretty crazy. Only Logan Jack has only more catches, and he has 132, which is even more crazy. The thing is that BDG Hollywood has 6.7 yards per catch. So it's not that it's just a check down and he gets tackled for a 1-yard gain or a 2-yard loss. No, they have really good schemes for BDG to catch the ball out of the backfield and run for positive yardage and big gains. So also with 7 catching touchdowns, receiving touchdowns, is with T-Roy Gaines number 1 in the SFL. So I think it's going to be like that. Chicago has to force the takeaways, and Atlanta just has to make sure that they keep the ball in their hands, because I think that overall, if that happens, I think the Swarm is a more prepared and a better team right now than the Wildcats. So I have the Swarm winning this game about 31-23.
Yeah, I agree. I think Atlanta at home is tough to begin with, but here's the interesting thing. So Atlanta averaging less than 100 yards rushing per game at home. Chicago doing the same on the road. But look at Bryant Dynasty, averaging over 300 yards a game passing when he's at home, when he's in his friendly confines, right? And over 400 yards of total offense. I think that's going to be the difference maker. I can see Dynasty putting up some humongous numbers in this game against Chicago. Jack's data has Atlanta favored by 9.5. Over under of only 38.5. But again, just crushing the who you got. SFL Nation, I think this might be the largest margin. We've got a couple that are really humongous. And this one is 137 to only 14 in favor of Atlanta. So, and I'm sure those numbers probably got worse since this afternoon when I actually wrote them down. So, moving on to Sunday. The first game of Sunday. This is another game along with the Charleston game that I could see being a potential upset, Frank. Carolina, pretty unpredictable. I know Vancouver's really hot right now. They had the biggest jump in the playoff picture from 14 to 8, 6 spots. But I think this is almost, I don't want to call it a trap game. I wonder if Vancouver is going to overlook Carolina in this game. Frank, what do you think?
That could be a possibility. Carolina lost in a shootout last week in Houston. Will they be able to rebound in the Great White North? You know that Vancouver has the third-ranked defense. They're giving up just over 300 yards a game, 10th against the rush, 4th against the pass. Kevin Brackett averages 9.7 tackles a game. Drew Hamilton is close behind at 9.2 tackles a game. Those two anchor that stingy Legion defense. The question I have, and it's a question I have every week, is which Tom Pepper is going to be showing up. He's 9th in passing yards with 2,754 yards thrown, 14 touchdowns, but he's tied for 4th with 24 interceptions. He's averaging just over 1 TD and 2 interceptions a game. Thank goodness they have Robert Redford. He's quietly having a good year. You don't hear much talk about him, but he's second in rushing, only behind that rushing phenom from Louisiana. He is a little over 600 yards behind him, but he's 600 yards ahead of the third running back. He is over 1,300 yards, averaging 5.9 yards a carry, has 15 touchdowns. You got Rich Pratchard and Dan Daly, the key targets for Pepper. Pratchard has 764 yards on 43 catches. Daly has 246 yards on 24 catches. Carolina is bringing in the 7th best defense to Vancouver, and they are tied against the pass, ranked 5th overall, average 344 yards on the road. 76-yard run average on the road is a little concerning to me. Sully Richardson's passing attack is ranked 1st overall. He leads the league with yards, 3,279, 18 touchdowns, 20 interceptions. Logan Jack has 722 yards for the year. So this is about the average for Carolina on the road. Heath McDaniel has 773 yards receiving and 7 touchdowns. Arish Prasad is 50 yards behind him and 6 touchdowns. Trevon Prasad, if I said that correctly, if I didn't, I apologize, and Rochelle Colston are in the upper 80s each in tackling. Carolina is averaging 27 points a game on the road, but give up 37 points as well. Vancouver averages 27 points at home and only 17 points against them. The 4th-ranked rushing attack of Vancouver against the 18th-ranked run defense of the Skyhawks, I think, will be the difference. I think it's going to be close for a while, but I think Vancouver eventually pulls it out at the end. I got them winning 30-20.
Yeah, a lot of these stats look very similar for these two teams. You look at third down conversion, turnovers, points for. I think the biggest discrepancy, points for. The biggest discrepancies I see are the points against. Carolina giving up 37 a game on the road when Vancouver's only giving up 17 at home. But then also the rushing yards. Carolina only averaging 76 a game on the road, and Vancouver crushing it with 138 yards per game at home. That's a lot of yards. Jack's data has Vancouver favored by more than a touchdown, 7.5 points, with an over-under of 49.5, and another just lopsided who you got by SFL Nation, 121 to only 28 in Vancouver's favor. Moving on to the second game on Sunday. Sioux Falls riding high, 3rd seed in the playoffs against Arizona, who I mentioned has lost 5 of their last 6. But I can see this as well. Just like the Charleston game, coach, just like the Vancouver game, I can see another 4-6 team in Arizona pulling an upset. What do you think?
Yeah, this is a potential trap game for Sioux Falls. They could come in and just kind of have the wheels fall off the cart a little bit, and Arizona's certainly got the weapons and the team to take advantage. When you look at the stats, the stats tell a story, and the story is heavily in favor of Sioux Falls. Things like the third down conversion rate, Sioux Falls is tied for first in the league in that. Their turnover differential is tied for third in the league. These are all good things, right? These are things you look at and you say, well, that's a tough team. The thing to me that I'm going to say something that sounds weird. Ordinarily, when you talk about a team or you talk about a game, you say you want to make them one-dimensional. I think the key to this game is for Arizona to make Sioux Falls be multi-dimensional. They can throw the ball, but if they don't have to, they don't. They won't. And if Arizona can get them in the place where they're throwing the ball a little bit more than they usually do, then all of those great defensive backs really come into play. Get a little bit of the pass rush going, get some turnovers, get more opportunities, and limit the chance for Sioux Falls to do what they do and just grind you down with that magnificent running game. Having said all that, do I think it's going to happen? I do not. Unfortunately, I think Sioux Falls is going to be too tough for this, and we're going to see about a 7-point win for Sioux Falls.
Well, I'm kind of hoping to see a bunch of upsets this weekend, to be honest with you, and this is one I wouldn't mind seeing. I mean, technically,
I'd love it. It'd be fun.
It would be fun. I mean, technically, if Sioux Falls wins and Arizona loses, it helps us, more than the other way around. I just think Arizona's due. Sioux Falls is kind of riding high, off that victory last week. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Jack's data has Sioux Falls only favored by 6.5, so not even a touchdown. So they're expecting a close game as well. Over under a 48.5, and another blowout in the Who You Got, 115-42 in favor of Sioux Falls. The midday game or the mid game. This is the game I think. This has humongous playoff, along with St. Louis and Houston, but humongous playoff implications. Jacksonville was 6-2, sitting pretty. They've lost 2 in a row. They're now tied with 2 other teams to potentially lose their first round bye in the playoffs. Fort Worth coming off that just amazing victory against you guys, Matt, last week in Louisiana. I can see Fort Worth taking care of business, improving their playoff spot, and actually knocking Jacksonville out of the top 5. Matt, what do you think?
100%. I agree with you. They gave us a little bit more than we bargained for last week. Mike, Twin Screw, he played an amazing game last week, and they outplayed us. We didn't come with everything we had, and they took advantage of it. They took advantage of missed turnovers that we had, and they played amazing. But another team like you said, Jacksonville, they played really well against us too. It took a late comeback for us to actually win coming in that third quarter, and Jacksonville's not a slouch though. I mean, they've got a very high powered offense. If you don't play the right defense against them, if you're not playing up to par, they're going to take advantage of it, and they did against us a lot in that game. And if you're not there to stop it, they're going to get one-play touchdowns. Right? They could score on offense. They could score on defense. Heck, they can even score on special teams, and that's where you got to prepare for it. But like you said, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Like you said, Fort Worth, they're a really good team, and I could see them making a very, very strong playoff push. Starting with this week, I think they have a very good chance to run the table. They played really well on offense last week, and they were more than we bargained for. I don't think anybody expected that game to be as close as as close as it was, and like I said, my hat was off to them. They played their hearts out, and I think it's going to be a very close game this week. I could see it being 3 points either way on this one. I think it's a pick 'em to me between these two teams, but if I had to choose, I think Jacksonville's going to win.
Well, it sounds like you might have had some inside trader information with Jack's data, because they actually did call this a pick 'em. with the over under of 54.5, and this is the closest who you got. 78-74 last I looked in Jacksonville's favor. And it's no surprise if you just look at this graphic on the screen right now and you look at every category, almost every category is really close. So I think this is going to be a super close game. I can see Fort Worth pulling the upset, and then another 4-6 team. And I'm telling you, I don't envy being Cam trying to figure this out after week 11. All right, so we just talked about Sioux Falls. He beat Baltimore last week. Baltimore 7-3, the 4th seed still though. They're still looking strong. Traveling to London. There's been a couple of times, Ramos, that we've actually called London. We thought they were going to win a home game, and then they disappoint. Do you think London has any chance against Baltimore this week?
With all due respect to London, I don't see how. They have the worst defense in the league, Dave, and they face Baltimore that are number 4 offensively in points per game. I do see this as a blowout. Obviously, if London wants to win this game, they have to make sure they win time of possession. If not, T-Roy Gaines, Ivory Irvin, Daly Holder, and those boys are just going to throw a party right there in London. So I think Baltimore, especially because they're really playing for a playoff spot, like as far as getting a better seed. If they win this last 2 games, it will be 9-3. Probably one of the top 3 places in the playoffs. I think the Vultures are going to just steamroll the London Knights. Ivory Irvin gets a lot of targets. He gets a lot of catches, and I don't see how London can stop that, honestly. Offensively, London is a bit better, especially at home, scoring 24 points per game offensively, but they just cannot stop teams in a consistent basis. And knowing TJ and T-Pat and those boys like I do, will be firing on all cylinders. I think T-Roy Gaines could have a game where he gets, combined 3, even 4 touchdowns, maybe 2 on the ground, 2 on the air, and I have Vultures winning big, 45-17.
It's interesting though, and I agree with 90% of what you just said, Ramos. But as I'm looking at the graphic though, these stats are so much closer. Apparently, I don't know, maybe Baltimore's just a better road team or a home team when they play, because they're only scoring 28 points, and London is scoring 24. And it just turnovers are close, takeaways are one apart, touchdowns are almost exactly the same. The overall yardage is almost exactly the same. Obviously it comes down to who you're playing. London seems to play better at home than they do on the road. But I agree with you. I think Baltimore is just way too much. I think they're going to pad their stats and their winning record this week when they go to London, unfortunately. And now we got a couple London people in the house, Benji and a couple others, but sorry, bro. That's the way we see it. The nightcap on Sunday. Portland at Louisiana. Actually, I'm sorry. I skipped the Jack's data for Baltimore, London. Jack's data has Baltimore favored by 10.5, which is one of only 2 double-digit spreads, over under a 52.5, and I guess maybe this is tied with that Chicago-Atlanta game for the widest margin on the Who You Got. SFL Nation 139 to only 16 in favor of Baltimore. All right, now moving on to the nightcap on Sunday. Here's the deal. I feel bad for Portland this game. Portland just came off winning their second game, and now you have to go on the road to one of the best teams in the SFL, Frank, who just came off a tough loss. I can see this being a blowout. What do you think?
Well, if you look at last time they met, it was, Reggie Streeter fumbled. Portland fell on it 3 plays later, kicked a field goal. They were winning 3-0. The crowd was in a frenzy. But then 232 yards later and 3 touchdowns later, Louisiana walked off the field 49-3. Right. The defense is not the problem, and I'll get into it here in just a minute. But I want to ask a rhetorical question of 459 yards. Can that be reached in the next 2 games? And I'll tell you why. I have a few friends on both sides, so this one was kind of hard to break down, but it is what it is. Streeter is the league's leading rusher, and no one's going to catch him. He is almost at 2,000 yards.
Wow.
And he has 19 touchdowns, leading in both categories. He is 458 yards. This is why I said, can he get to 459 from breaking the most rushing yards in a season set in season 11? That's 2,387 yards by Jay Enola, if I'm saying his last name right, from the Jacksonville Kings. He is 458 yards from tying that, and he might possibly get half of that this weekend. Pickler proved 2 weeks ago that he could carry this team if he needed to and not just be a game manager. He is ranked 18th in passing with just 2,291 yards, but his QBR he's ranked first at 102.2. He's at the bottom of the list in interceptions. And that's a good thing with only 13 and has thrown 21 touchdowns. Defensive have tried to, they had to pick their poison on who they're going to try to stop. Portland's pass defense is ranked 9th overall, but that's the only bright spot. They're 20th in points against, 21st against the run, 22nd in overall yardage, and almost 4,000 yards given up. Louisiana is averaging almost 200 yards on the ground at home, and I don't see that going down here. Mel Davis is second in the league with tackles, and their linebacker core is good, but it's not enough to stop Louisiana at home. Pickler spreads the football around to several targets, so there's not a lot of high numbers from those guys, but that doesn't mean they're not athletes there. Storm and Twin Screw have been doing great. The duo of Bennett and Arthur are 1 and 3 respectively in interceptions. Bennett has 10. Arthur is tied for third with 8, and he's also taken 2 of those to the house. Luther Gond has 12. Is 12 coming into this game with sacks. I'm sorry, he has 12 sacks coming into this game. Portland is barely breathing on offense. Ranked 22nd in points. Points for 20th in the passing yards, 22nd in total yards. Matt South is 21st in total yards with just over 2,000. 22nd in TD passes with just 5. 22nd in QBR at 55.5. And here's where they're leading. First in interceptions and first in being sacked for a whopping 38 times. There's young talent in the receiving core of Valentine, Vanderlei, and Weston. Connor Weston is 20th in total yards with 741. John Truzman has 447 yards, which ranks him, you guessed it, 22nd, and has 2 touchdowns, which is 21st. It's going to be interesting who stays and who goes during the offseason because there is talent there. Louisiana is averaging almost 4 touchdowns a game at home, and Portland is averaging 1 touchdown every 4 games on the road. Portland is averaging more on the road and passing than Louisiana is at home, but those numbers are deceiving. Louisiana is very successful on the ground. Portland is always playing catch up. Portland is scoring 11 points and giving up 24 points on the road. Louisiana is averaging 30 points and only giving up 23. Portland will score some points, might even make it a little interesting at first, but in the end, it's going to be 33-17 Louisiana.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I agree. I think this is going to be a blowout. Jack's Data thinks this is going to be a blowout. They have a 20.5 point spread for Louisiana, which I believe, and I don't know if Hunter or Jack are in the chat tonight, excuse me, but I believe that's the largest spread we've had all season. 20.5 points. If Jack's Data is around, if they can back me up or tell me I'm wrong, that would be great. 52.5 on the over-under, and another blowout in the Who You Got. SFL Nation 130 to only 21 in favor of Louisiana. Moving on to the Monday night games. This is what I think, number 1 game with playoff implications. Number 12 seeded St. Louis at number 9 seeded Houston. They're both 5-5, along with 3 other teams. There's 5 teams at 5-5, remember, and 7 at 4-6. So 12 teams within a game of each other, Coach. And I think the loser of this game might have a tough time climbing back into the playoff race.
I have to agree with you on that. Before I go any further, I need to get this out of the way because Eagle never gets tired of hearing it. My preseason prediction for St. Louis was completely incorrect. Mea culpa, Mazel tov. all of that. I apologize.
Attaboy.
There. Now that that's out of the way, listen. There are 3 keys to this game for St. Louis. Key number 1, Warren Murray. Take care of Warren Murray. Key number 2, take care of Warren Murray. Key number 3, take care of Warren Murray. If they do those things, they've got a chance. And hey, if anyone's equipped to do it, it's going to be St. Louis. But as Cam pointed out last time he did one of these, whenever that was, when Warren Murray is there, Houston is quite a they're a handful. They are just a serious handful.
Oh, he crushed us. Remember?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Hey. Yeah, I'm not going to touch that. Anyway, passing there close, 240 yards to 232. Rushing yards, Houston's got a big advantage. They run the ball really well, obviously, because, shocker, Warren Murray. The turnover differential is surprisingly, Kenta's, I think of him as a turnover machine, but they're actually +6, whereas St. Louis is -4 overall. The points for and against, it's a 10-point difference for Houston, but Houston gives up a fair number of points as well. And so, it feels like a real challenge. It's in Houston. That's always going to be a thing. I made a mistake betting against St. Louis before. I made a mistake. Diva likes to remind me. I'm not going to do it this time. Despite all of that stuff and how dominant Warren Murray has been, I'm going to go out on a limb. This is my upset special for me. Well, I don't know if it counts as an upset just because of the record, but yeah, I'm going to call St. Louis on this one. I think they're going to have one of their best games of the year. They're going to do what they do on defense, and we're going to see I'm going to say 10 more points out of their offense than they've been averaging. We're going to see a 27-point outburst, and it's going to be enough. We're going to get it done.
Okay, well, Jack's data thinks Houston is going to win by 7 with an over-under of 55.5. This is a semi-close who you got, 86-65 in favor of Houston. But I'm telling you, this is the game, I think. Whoever loses this game, if they don't make the playoffs, are going to look back at this game and know why. All right. The weekend cap, the game of the week, the crowd play game of the week, and Vice Wars 2.0 for this season. Denver at Las Vegas. I'm calling upset. I'm just calling it right now. Vegas at home. One of those 4 and 6 teams that we've talked about this whole show. Denver riding high, number 1 seed. Let's see what happens. Jeremy, I don't know. Maybe Jeremy and I might have to make a bet on this one. We'll see. But Matt, take us home on this game. Vice Wars 2.0. It's all you.
Well, you did say Vegas at home, so I do have a stat for you. Vice Wars, overall, they are tied 3-3 in the series. Both teams are 2-1 at home. They both won at home. They both lost at home. It was kind of tricky for me to decide on this one, seeing a lot of the stats, especially a lot of the stats Denver's put up this year. Obviously, they're the number 1 seed right now after we just lost last week. They are number 1 in points per game. They're number 1 in net points. They're number 1, like I said, in points for. They're 4th best in points against. They're 4th best in total passing touchdowns and 2nd best in total rushing touchdowns. They do have a very good high-powered offense. They can score from anywhere on the field. Their defense, they do force a lot of turnovers. They have the 5th least total turnover margin right now as well. The 1st and 3rd down conversions, I think it's like 61, 62% right now. They're 1st in points allowed, or points per game allowed. 14th best in passing yards per game and number 1 in rushing yards per game. They are the 6th best in total yards allowed, and they're the 5th best in yards per game allowed. I mean, if you just look at the stats that they're putting up, a lot of people are going to pick Vegas because they are at home. I think Denver is going to come in with the upset, though. Or not really an upset to everybody, but I think they're going to come in. Everybody's expecting Vegas to beat them at home, and I think Denver is going to pull it out. I don't think it's going to be as close as everyone thinks either. I think Denver is going to win by 14. I think they're going to come alive in the 3rd and 4th quarter, and I think that's just going to end it.
I have to completely disagree with you. I certainly don't see Denver winning by 2 touchdowns in Las Vegas. And again, this is not disrespecting Denver. What it is it's letting you know that I think that Las Vegas has the best home advantage or home field advantage in the league. They've only lost one game at home this season, I believe. I'm sure Winkler will be checking that as soon as it comes out of my mouth. But I just, and it's Vice Wars. It's a rivalry, and Denver won the first game. There's just so many things that lean towards Vegas winning this game that that's the way I see it. So no disrespect to JV and Rosca and all my other boys over there in Denver, but that's the way I see it. Jeremy, let's see. Gunny, are you with us?
I am.
Sweet. Let me pull your stuff up here, and I'm assuming that means you're ready and good to go?
I'm good to go.
All right, you can begin whenever you're ready.
Good evening, SFL Nation. We're going to go through where everyone was ranked at Season 14, Week 10, where they were at the end of the playoff, at the start of the playoffs in Season 14, and where they stand right now. Atlanta was number 1 at Week 10. At the start of the playoffs, number 1. Right now, they're number 11. Vancouver, Week 10, number 2. Start of the playoffs, they were the 4th seed. Right now, they're number 8. Baltimore, they started Week 10 at 3rd. The playoffs, they were in 2nd. And now they're sitting in 4th place in Season 15. Sioux Falls, 4th after 10 weeks. 3rd seed. And now they're in 3rd place. Queen City, they were in 5th. Started the playoffs in 7th. And now they're out of the playoff position right now. Jacksonville, 6th. Then they went to 5th seed, and they're sitting at number 5. Charleston was at number 7. They moved up to the 6th seed, and they're right now sitting out of the playoffs. Tulsa started at number 8. They went all the way down to number 13, and they're out now. Chicago is number 9 at Week 10. They ended up at the 8th seed, and they're sitting out of the playoffs right now. Denver, they were at the 10th seed at Week 10. They dropped down to 14, missed the playoffs, but right now they're sitting at seed number 1. New Orleans, which is now Louisiana, they were 11th. They dropped out to number 18th, and now they're at number 2. Las Vegas was 12th. They picked up 1 spot to number 11. They just missed the playoffs, and they're out of the playoffs at this moment right now. Florida was 13th. Then they went to 12, and right now they're the 6th seed. Arizona was 14th, dropped to 17th, and then they were out. Mexico City, they went from 15th place in Week 10. They made it to the playoffs at seed number 10, and now they're sitting at number 7. And the last one is St. Louis. They were 16th after 10 weeks. They moved up to the 9th place seed, made the playoffs, wild card, and now they're sitting at 12th, right out of the playoff spot. And with that, I wish everyone a great weekend games this weekend. Everybody enjoy the playoff run, and that is all.
All right, Gunny, thank you. Wow, a lot of those teams in and out of the playoffs from last year, but there was a few there at the top too that are either exactly in the same spot or close to the same spot as they were this time last year. That's interesting. All right, everybody, you know what time it is. It's Diva of the Week announcement time. Now, last week we had videos and stuff, and this week we weren't able to get it all done. So instead of only having some have videos and some not, we just decided that we were just going to do any videos this week. Plus, we had 8 nominees, so that was going to be a lot of work to do for Tuesday, and then so we just didn't do it. But here's the deal. The winner, your Diva of the Week for Week 10, and remember, this is the most nominees we've ever had, 8. And let me tell you, 30 minutes before voting closed, we had a 3-way tie. Not by percentage, by exact number of votes. One person got one more vote than the other two in the last 30 minutes. The other two finished tied for second, only 1 vote behind your winner, Diva of the Week, winner for Week 10 is the leg. Amy Shalizzi wins Diva of the Week for Week 10. She is the second kicker to win so. The first one since Week 3, which was Matt Fennick, who's with us tonight on the show. We weren't able to get Amy on the show tonight, but in her place is your Week 2 Diva of the Week winner from the same team from St. Louis, Drew Really, here to accept the award on behalf of Amy. Drew, thanks for being here. How you doing, bro?
Hey, it's great to be back here. I was able to sneak my way back in through Amy's nomination and winnings. It's great to be here. I knew Amy was going to be the difference in our game against London. I told her that her leg is going to be the number one difference, and she came through with 15 points.
Yeah, all the points, yeah. What a beast. So, have you had a chance to talk to Amy about this yet or no?
About her winning Diva of the Week?
Yeah.
I haven't been able to contact her today, unfortunately, but we're trying to let her know as soon as she's available.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you, Drew, for coming on and accepting this on her behalf. I really appreciate that. And what we're going to do now is, you going to stick around and do the pick'ems with us then in her stead?
Oh, yeah, for sure, if you're willing to have me.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. All right, so let's take a look at the schedule again, and let's start looking at some games. Frank, you're going to be the first one to go this week. And everybody, I don't need recaps or anything like that. Just tell me your winners. Starting with Frank, Queen City at Mexico City.
I'm going with Mexico City.
Coach?
Mexico City, sorry.
That's okay. Matt?
Mexico City.
Mexico City. Ramos?
I have to go with my boys.
Of course you do. Drew?
QCC is the harder team to game plan for. I'm going for Queen City.
Ooh, look at you. All right. And then Gunny, who you got?
Mexico City.
Mexico City. So almost a clean sweep. Or a queen sweep, I guess. Let's see. Florida at Charleston. Frank?
I'm going with a hot team, Florida.
Yeah, they are super hot right now. Coach?
Yeah, same here, Florida.
Okay. Matt?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Florida as well.
Okay. Ramos?
Florida.
Florida. Drew?
As much as I'd want Charleston to win, I'm going to have to go with Florida.
And Gunny, you going to make it a clean sweep?
No, I'll go with Charleston and make it a little oddball.
There you go. Attaboy. All right, Frank. Third game on Saturday, Tulsa at Lone Star.
Oh, always Lone Star.
Attaboy, Frank. You're like an honorary member of Lone Star or something, I think. Coach?
Hello, Lone Star.
Well, yeah, you know, Coach is kind of an honorary member of Lone Star, too. Matt?
Yeah, kind of.
Of course I've got to go with Lone Star.
Attaboy. Can't pick against your dad, bro. Come on. Ramos?
I'll go with Lone Star as well.
Okay. Drew?
Oh, I don't like giving them the win, but I'm going to have to go with Lone Star.
Why don't you like giving us the win, bro?
You guys don't deserve it.
Oh,
You
get
don't.
out of here. We deserve more. What are you talking about? Gunny, what do you think about what Drew just said?
Clean sweep.
There you go. That's what I like to hear. Attaboy. All right. The last game on Saturday night, Chicago and Atlanta, Frank.
Atlanta.
Coach.
Atlanta.
Matt.
I'm going to have to go with Atlanta.
Ramos.
ATL.
Yep. Drew.
Atlanta.
And Gunny. I know you always go Atlanta, don't you?
Hometown swarm.
That's right. All right. First game kicking off on Sunday, Carolina at Vancouver, Frank.
Vancouver.
Vancouver. Coach.
Vancouver.
Matt.
Carolina.
There you go. Ramos.
It was said that maybe Andy was going to overlook this game. He's not. He actually used to coach for the Carolina Skyhawks, so he has this marked down in his calendar. I go with Vancouver.
Well, I wish I had known that little tidbit before I said that earlier. Okay. Drew.
I have to agree with Ramos and go with Vancouver. He's a good game planner.
All right, and Gunny.
Vancouver.
Vancouver, gotcha. Okay. Second game on Sunday, Sioux Falls at Arizona. Frank.
I'm gonna try to give Eddie the win, but I'm going Sioux Falls.
You're doing that reverse psychology thing again?
Yeah.
All right, Coach.
Sioux Falls.
Sioux Falls. Matt.
Arizona.
Arizona. Ramos.
Sioux Falls.
Sioux Falls. Drew.
I'm gonna go with my boy Eddie and give him the win this week.
Nice. Gunny.
Sioux Falls.
Sioux Falls. Okay, well that one was almost even. Not too shabby. Jacksonville at Fort Worth. Frank.
Yeah, this is a tough one, but I'm gonna go Fort Worth at home.
Yeah, I can see that. Coach.
I also am going to Fort Worth.
Wow, look at that. Fort Worth beats Louisiana, and now everybody loves them. What's going on here, Matt?
Jacksonville.
I think I was like, that was just out of spite, bro. Come on. Ramos.
No.
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. Okay, Drew.
I've always loved Fort Worth, and I'm still going with them this week.
Okay, and Gunny.
I got a cowboy hat on, so I'm going with Fort Worth.
Wow, 4-2 in favor of Fort Worth. That's going to be interesting if that comes back to haunt us on Tuesday. Baltimore at London, Frank.
I think you could hear Matt erasing his choice on that last one. I'm going Baltimore.
Baltimore. All right, Coach.
Baltimore for me.
Yeah. Matt.
Baltimore.
Baltimore. Ramos.
I'm going with Baltimore as well.
Okay. Drew.
Baltimore.
Baltimore and Gunny.
Baltimore.
Gives us our third. Was it our third sweep? Last game on Sunday night, Portland at Louisiana. Frank.
Louisiana.
Coach.
Louisiana.
Matt.
You know I got to stack up and go with the Revs.
Yeah, of course. Ramos.
Raps.
Drew.
Louisiana.
And Gunny.
Louisiana.
Wow, we got a lot of sweeps this week so far. All right, going into the Monday night games, the first game, and this is going to be a close one and a tough one, I think. St. Louis at Houston, Frank.
Shoot, St. Louis.
You don't sound so sure, Coach.
No, I know.
I'm going to St. Louis.
St. Louis, okay. Matt.
I'm going to go with Houston.
Houston at home. Ramos.
Houston.
Houston at home as well. Drew.
Well, I shouldn't really have to state it, but I'm gonna have to go with St. Louis.
Well, you gotta be on record, bro. I'm just saying. Gunny.
St. Louis.
St. Louis. All right. The last game, the crowd play game of the week, Vice Wars 2.0, Denver at Vegas. Frank.
Vegas, baby.
Vegas, baby. Coach.
I'm going Vegas too.
Woo, Matt.
Denver.
Denver. Ramos.
I'm going to be in the broadcast of this game, so I'm just going to say that I really hope for a good game. I think Vegas has a good chance. Denver is a big favorite in this one, but Vegas always plays the Night Wings hard.
Okay, Drew.
Vegas all day.
Wow, and Gunny.
I'll go with Ramos, and I'm going to pick Las Vegas.
So Matt's the only one to pick Denver, the number one team. You know Jeremy's going to be all over this show Tuesday if Denver wins this game, right? He's going to be all over it in the chat.
Trying that reverse psychology.
I guess, is that what it is? It's something.
Possibly.
All right, let's move to the after dark portion. We don't have a topic per se this week, but what I did want to do is I just wanted to kind of recap the playoff situation for anybody who wasn't here or anybody that had a question or a comment that didn't get anything in on Tuesday. So if you remember, Denver and Louisiana switched 1 and 2. Sioux Falls and Baltimore switched 3 and 4, and Jacksonville stayed right at number 5. Ramos, I'm going to begin with you. As you look at these top 5 teams, and I think Jacksonville is really on the bubble there. other than Jacksonville, do you think any of those other teams would drop out of the top 5?
No, I really don't think so, Dave. I think it could shuffle between these top 4, especially. I do see Baltimore jump into the number 3, for example. But no, I think this is going to be stayed put, between these top 4, especially. And I think Jacksonville is a very clutch team with a couple of very winnable games.
Yeah. Matt, what about you? As you see this, and I know you've got a little, little investment here with your team being number 2. But outside of Jacksonville possibly falling out, you think the top 4 are going to stay pretty solid?
Well, like I said, I'm hoping for that reverse psychology to work this weekend. And with our blowout that everybody's predicting to happen, I'm hoping that Vegas can pull it off, And if they do, I'm hoping that we shuffle back up to number 1 where we should be.
All right. Frank, I couldn't remember if you didn't come on for that much on Tuesday. You just did the Diva of the Week, I think. So you didn't get to talk about the Okay. Other than Jacksonville, top 4, pretty solid?
I think so. They've been pretty solid all year. Those 4 teams have been pretty solid all year long. So yeah, Jacksonville being on the bubble, a chance to slide out, but those top 4 now, I don't see them moving.
Yeah, I actually would say these top 5 that are here are literally the 5 best teams in the league. Anyway, even though Jacksonville hit a 2-game skid, we've been talking about them all season as well. So, Coach, last word on this question. Other than Jacksonville, you see any issues with 1 through 4 in the next 2 weeks?
No. I mean, all of these teams. The only one, if Baltimore happened to lose the next 2, and I don't expect that to happen, then they'd be 7-5. And
right.
Like, for example, we could be 7-5 if we won out. So,
right.
Okay, that could happen, but no, I don't see that happening with any of the top 4.
Okay. So. All right. Moving on to the bottom half of this playoff picture. Ramos, back to you. You guys stayed put at number 7 this week. Vancouver made a huge jump, and Florida's the hottest team right now. If you had to pick a team 6 through 13 that you see on here that will not be on here after this week, who would it be?
We'll go with the Gladiators, probably.
Losing to Houston.
I'm sorry?
Because you said Gladiators losing to Houston?
Yeah, exactly. I think Houston, and they did the same last year, Dave. They just completely turned on another gear at the end of the season, and they're doing the same exact thing right now. So the Hyenas is a team that you don't want to mess with by the end of the year.
Yeah, a lot of people, I'm going to look at this. Fort Worth, Ramos, you actually picked Jacksonville. So based on that, if Fort Worth lost, they would probably drop out of the playoff hunt right now. But we had 4, 1, 2, yeah. So Gunny, Drew, Frank, and Coach. Gunny, Fort Worth, you think they're going to beat Jacksonville this week, so they're going to move up. What do you think about the St. Louis-Houston game that Ramos said, or do you see another team you think that might fall out of the playoff hunt after this week?
I think that might just push one of those 2 teams out of contention for the playoffs with that 6th loss. That's going to be tough.
Yeah, I agree. And, I mean, I don't think Chicago's going to upset Atlanta, but Atlanta with a 6th loss would be in a lot of trouble as well. Matt, what about you? What do you see here, 6 through 13? Anybody you think that's going to either jump in the top 5 maybe or fall out of the 6 through 13 range?
To be honest, I think it's going to stay exactly where it's at. I think I don't see much change going on this week.
Well, I don't know that it would be able to. I mean, Cam's got all the answers for that. But I think the loser of Houston and St. Louis, I mean, if St. Louis wins, obviously they're going to jump up. But Houston, even if they lose, I don't know if they would fall all the way out. But I think if St. Louis loses, they would fall out of the 13 for sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I feel like that's going to be a really close game. If they do drop out, I'm kind of wondering who's going to come in next. That's what I'm sitting over here debating.
Yeah. Where am I going next? Frank, what do you see 6 through 13?
Well, y'all kind of talked about it with Houston and St. Louis. And, I predicted St. Louis to win that game, and only because you don't know what Houston team's going to show up. You got a team that plays very well one week, and then for 2 weeks, they're They're non-existent. I would think Houston would be the one that would fall out of there.
If they lose. Okay, hey, I'm gonna ask everybody in the chat, if you're listening, you can type right now. How many of you think St. Louis is gonna win this game this week, and how many think Houston's gonna win? I'm just curious of what the people in the chat think, because I just think this game is so even that it's gonna be really hard to call.
One more thing, guys.
Yeah, go ahead, Frank.
If you don't, I had said, I think it was last week or week before last, that y'all had coming down the stretch had the easier schedule. I think I'd look for y'all to move up from 10.
Yeah, if we can beat Tulsa, but I think beating Tulsa doesn't do a lot for our strength of victory. So I'm not sure how that would play, and I don't know what our strength of victory is. I think we asked Cam on Tuesday for Vancouver, Houston, and Lone Star, so he told us. I'd have to go back and listen to the recording, but I don't think it was very much higher than Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken. So I could see a scenario where potentially St. Louis could even, if they beat Houston and we beat Tulsa, maybe St. Louis jumps over us. I don't know. I mean, there's just so much math and Jack's data and Cameron Irvine involved in all that. I don't know. Coach, what do you think?
Well, on that last bit there, if that did happen, then I don't know. I think the head-to-head, the fact that we beat St. Louis may come into play.
Oh, that's a good point.
But that might be the only thing that keeps us ahead of them in that scenario. But otherwise, like everyone's saying, two of these teams are playing each other, and that's not happening with anyone else in this group. And so, well, actually, no, because
Fort Worth is at Jacksonville, but they're 5, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing. The loser of that game is in a pretty tough spot. And then of those teams, I could see that happening. Fort Worth, obviously, if they don't get it done, then that's pretty bad for them. But that's kind of low hanging fruit on that one.
Yeah.
Well, Fort Worth is the one I'd be dropping out of there. Fort Worth, much like Houston, it's like, which team are you going to get? I mean, let's not forget they also beat the crap out of Sioux Falls.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they have two really impressive victories.
They really do. They really do. And so it's kind of I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Coach. Dwayne said in the chat, he said you really have to avoid 6-6 at the end of the season. 13 teams have the potential to have that record. Yeah, I was actually just looking at this, right? So let me go back and double check Jacksonville's record before I talk. So Jacksonville's 6-4, right? Hold on, let me pull that back up. Florida's 6-4. Mexico City 6-4. So Fort Worth upsets Jacksonville, they go to 6-5. Charleston upsets Florida, they go to 6-5. Queen City upsets Mexico City, they go to 6-5. Vancouver wins, they go to 6-5. Either Houston or St. Louis goes to 6-5. We win, we go to 6-5, and Atlanta beats Chicago, and they go to 6-5. So now you have, is that 7 teams at 6-5? That's insane. That's more than calculators, man. You need like supercomputers and stuff to figure that out at that point. I can't wait for Cam to come on next Tuesday and break all that down for us if that really happens. Ramos, what do you think about my potential scenario there?
It's pretty crazy. And this is why, and I've talked about this, with Cam and in broadcasts and everything. That's what makes the SFL so great. It's just any team can beat any team in any given week, and it's just so, the competition is so great. It's very hard to win in the SFL, and having only 12 games makes this happen. When you have, like 6, 7, 8 teams within a game of each other, and the tiebreakers going to the third, fourth tiebreaker, going to the strength of victory. As you can see, Jacksonville, Florida, and us, the only difference is strength of victory. And if our strength of victory was just 0.18 higher, it will be 6th place.
Yeah.
If it was just 500, just instead of 400, it was 500, we will be 5th. So it's just so great to see how competitive the SFL is, and it's just crazy that so many teams could be 6-5 for the last week of the season, especially because some of those teams will play against each other, of course.
Yeah, and then we still have week 12 where we got to figure all this out again.
For sure, exactly. When you can have a lot of teams at 6-6, or you can have a good amount of teams at 5-7, and probably try to fight for that 11th spot. I'm not sure.
Yeah, sneaking in there, and and to Dwayne's point, 6-6 might be the bubble. 7-5 probably gets you in. 6-6 might be on the bubble. 5-7 might get you in. But it's going to be tough because right now, if the playoffs ended today, there would be no sub 500 teams in the playoffs. Atlanta would be 5-5 in the last spot. So if that scenario that I mentioned happens, now there's even less chance that any sub 500 team would make the playoffs. Coach, last thoughts on this before we start wrapping up? Anything about the playoffs at all?
No. I think we've beaten that horse to death, and we have no way of knowing how it's going to end up. So it's all speculation at this point.
Yeah, which is great, though. That's the fun of it, right?
Oh, it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Hey, Drew, I'm sorry. I skipped you 2 times. You know what? Why don't you give us – I totally missed your name on the screen, and I apologize. Let me just run all those questions by you real quick. Top 4 teams. Take Jacksonville out of it. You think that 4 is pretty solid?
Yeah, I think 4 is pretty solid. They're high caliber teams for a good reason. I think Sioux Falls and Baltimore are the only teams that'll switch after Week 12 because Sioux Falls is going to lose to St. Louis, but that's basically it.
Oh, and there you go. There you have it. All right, so looking at the bottom part of the playoff picture, 6 through 13, what stands out to you just at a glance?
Well, obviously, it's the Houston and St. Louis game. That's the key game for the week, and that's really going to change the entire playoff picture right there. So I think they're going to switch, obviously. I think Houston's going to lose that game. But besides that, I think everyone else that are near the top, near 6 and 10, are going to usually stay in place.
Hey, real quick, Drew, I'm going to come right back to you. But, hey, Gunny, you said last season, 2nd seed through 7th seed, all finished with 8-4. Did we have any sub 500 teams in the playoffs last year, Gunny? And then what did Lone Star finishes with the 8th seed. Dave Sleeves finished with the 9th seed. Yeah, that's real funny, Frank. I'll be coming to you here in a second. Drew, last question. You think anybody that you don't see on the screen going to jump in either next week or the week after?
I can't really say for sure. I mean, each week it's a whole new calculation that you got to do. So I can't even foresee any major changes until this week already passes by. So I'm gonna have to say no for now, at least.
Well, let me tell everybody, and then Frank, I'm coming to you next. Just FYI, here are the 4 and 6 teams that have the same record as Fort Worth that are not listed on this screen, but they have the same record: Las Vegas, Charleston, Arizona, Carolina, and Chicago. 3 or 4 of those teams could win this week and be 5 and 6 and right back in the playoff hunt. So, I mean, who knows for real? Frank, last thoughts on this whole playoff picture?
Well, I've been saying in the Vegas locker room, when we lost at home to St. Louis, that we would have to win out. So I don't know if that's going to be able to happen since we lost last week. I think the top is going to stay pretty solid. Like I said, I think y'all are going to move up. And I think Fort Worth, again, if Fort Worth is that, like Coach said, Houston, which team is going to show up? Those 2 are the iffy ones right there. We may have a chance to sneak in. I mean, the win this week is going to be very pivotal.
Real quick in the chat, I heard looks like Dwayne said that no sub 500 teams made the playoffs, but then somebody else said they thought Denver was 5 and 7 and made it. Or I'm sorry, Houston. Sorry. So we're gonna have to check records on that. Looks like we lost Matt. So Ramos, you're gonna get the last word tonight. Any final thoughts on this entire playoff picture?
Again, I think that especially in the top, anybody can beat anybody. We've seen, we've talked how Houston and St. Louis is a massive game this week, but there are also other games in the last week of the season that are gonna just probably, change everything. A lot of
Blow it all up
potential.
again.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's just week 12 will blow everything up that we talk about for week 11 anyway, right?
Yeah, and again, we see some games where it could be potential upset alerts. I think, and that could really change everything. And there are teams that do not play as great on the road as they do at home, so getting that home field advantage is going to be crucial. Like in week, I don't know, we're talking about week 11, but in week 12 you have games such as Arizona against Baltimore, and Eddie knows TJ very well, so. It's going to be one of those situations where it's going to be very interesting to see if we get an upset last week of the season.
Yeah.
But overall, I think top 5, especially the top 5 teams, and even more so the top 4 teams, have really been the 4 best teams all year by a good amount. So they deserve to be there, and they're going to be a force in the playoffs.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago I would have thrown Jacksonville in that conversation before losing 2 straight as well, but they seem to be the team slipping near the end of the season. Gunny, you know what? I said Ramos had last word, but Gunny, I'm going to go to you because it looks like you said the 9th and 10th seeds for season 14 were sub 500?
No, they were 6-6. Las Vegas was also 6-6, but they lost due to strength of victory or strength of schedule.
So no sub 500 teams in the playoffs last year?
No.
Okay, perfect. That's what I like to hear. I actually think that's good. I like that. Having a sub 500 team in the playoffs, I think, sounds kind of weird to me. But on that note, we're going to wrap this shindig up. I want to thank everybody in the chat for hanging in there with us tonight and giving me your feedback, giving us your feedback, all the chat and the talk. I love it. Special thanks to Coach and Frank and Matt and Ramos for being on the show tonight, as well as Gunny, as always, and Drew for popping in for Amy. Appreciate all of you guys tonight on the panel. And also, real quick, in about 8 minutes, Ashley Jackson, AJ, her show on YouTube will be kicking off. So go look at her. I don't know if AJ, if you're still listening, you could throw your link in there real quick if you can type fast while I'm signing off, and people can click on that to go to your show. So please follow AJ. Go listen to her show that's going to be starting in about 8 minutes on YouTube. In the meantime, everybody have a glorious week 11 and a glorious night. And I